This is Algebra 1, Lesson 6b, adding more than two numbers. It's going to include example 6.3 and example 6.4. Here we have a sum of four different numbers. Notice that you have two negative numbers, and then you have two positive numbers. This 4 is positive, and this 2 is positive. Now, they didn't put a positive sign in front of the 4, but if there's no sign in front of the 4, you know it's positive. Let's just do this in order from left to right. If we are adding two numbers that have different signs, we're going to subtract their absolute values. So 5 minus 4 is 1. Take the sign of the largest absolute value, which was 5, and it was negative, so it's negative 1. And then I'm going to bring down the rest of the problem. Let's take the next two. A negative 1 plus a negative 3. Both of them are the same sign, so we're going to add their absolute values and get 4 and keep the same sign. Let's bring down the rest of the problem. We're adding two numbers that have different signs, so we're going to subtract their absolute values. 4 minus 2 is 2. And take the sign of the largest absolute value, which is a negative. The total sum would be negative 2. Now, I could have combined all the positives and then combined all the negatives and gotten the same answer. So let's do it again, but let's do it in a little bit different way. And you can see it's the same. Now, we can do this because it's all additions. All of these terms, these numbers are being added together, and you can add in any order you want. For example, 1 plus 7 is 8. 7 plus 1 is 8. It's okay to add them out of order. One way I like to do these is to put my negatives together. Negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. The signs are the same, so we added their absolute values and kept the same sign. Then I go over and I put my positives together and put a plus sign between them. 4, positive 4 plus positive 2, they're the same sign, so I add their absolute values and get 6 and keep the same sign. Now that I have all my negatives together and all my positives together, I can add this sum. Now is when I'm going to be adding things that have different signs. So I'm going to subtract their absolute values. 8 minus 6 is 2, and I keep the sign of the one with the largest absolute value. Negative 8's absolute value is 8, and since it was negative, the answer is going to be negative. And you can see whichever way is easier for you to think about it, you're going to get the same answer. Let's do one more example. Let's add negative 3 plus positive 2 plus negative 2 plus a positive 4. And I think I'm going to do where we put all the positives together and all the negatives together. And here's my reason why. I have found that a lot of students have a hard time going back to, go back to example 6.3. Here they had to subtract, but then on the next one, they ended up subtracting again, and then sometimes you end up adding. And when they're all mixed together, going back and forth between adding and subtracting causes them to make errors. If you do it this way, when you put all your positives together, you're adding. When you put all your negatives together, you're adding, and then you don't have to subtract until the end. So let's do that with this. I've got a negative here and a negative here. Same signs, let's add them and we get 5 and keep the same sign. Let's put our positives together. 2 plus the 4 gives me 6. Add their absolute values and keep the same sign. Now I add these together. Negative 5 plus 6. They have different signs. The 6 is positive, the 5 is negative. So I subtract their absolute values and I get 1. The one with the largest absolute value is the 6, and it was positive, so my final answer is positive 1.